I died on a Tuesday. That's the first thing I remember clearly. The second thing is waking up in my own bed with a headache and a glowing panel floating above my chest. The panel said I was a character in a badly written web novel. Not the villain. Not even a friend. I was a plot device. Someone the male leads could despise together to strengthen their bond with the heroine. Her name was Valentina. She had hair that shimmered like honey and tears that worked like remote controls on every man in a 5-mile radius. In my first life, she destroyed me slowly. First, she took my research position at the Whitaker Institute. Then she took my mentor's approval. Then she took the 2 men who were supposed to be my anchors. My foster brother Elias, who I grew up with, and my childhood best friend Marcus, who I trusted more than anyone. On my last night alive, I was walking to the subway when 3 of Valentina's admirers grabbed me. They said I had made Valentina cry one too many times. They said I deserved worse than what they were about to do. I don't remember the details after that. Just the sound of the train. And then, nothing. Then the panel. The panel called itself the Narrative Correction Engine. It said I could earn points by doing things that helped others. Not for show. Not for praise. Just genuine positive impact. Points could change the world around me. Not in big dramatic ways at first. Small adjustments. A word here. A reaction there. But enough to break the chains Valentina had wrapped around everyone's minds. The panel warned me that Valentina was protected by something called the reader's favor. It was like a force field that made people forgive her for anything. It made them believe her tears were always justified. It made them see me as the villain no matter what I did. The only way to shatter that protection was to create a moment so undeniable that the story itself couldn't explain it away. A moment witnessed by enough people that the narrative would have to choose a new direction. I had 6 months before the Institute's annual showcase. That was where Valentina had stolen my research in my first life. That was where everything fell apart. But this time, I had the engine. And I had a plan. My first morning back, I walked into the Institute's communal kitchen. A graduate student named Priya was struggling to carry 3 heavy trays of equipment to the 4th floor lab. Her arms were shaking. No one stopped to help. In my first life, I had walked right past her. I was too busy worrying about my own problems. This time, I took 2 of the trays without asking. Let me get those. Priya blinked at me. You don't have to. I know. But I'm going that way anyway. We walked up together. She told me about her project on neural interface calibration. I listened. Really listened. When we reached the lab, she smiled at me in a way she never had before in my first life. Thanks, Clara. You're a lifesaver. The panel chimed softly. Good deed witnessed by 2 people. Points accrued. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few days, I became a different version of myself. I stayed late to help the janitorial staff clean lab benches when experiments spilled. I organized the chaotic shared drive of research papers that no one had touched in years. I brought coffee to the overnight technicians who looked like they hadn't slept in days. Each small act added points. Each group of witnesses moved the needle. By the end of the first week, I had enough to make my first edit. The original plot for the upcoming faculty reception was simple. Valentina would walk past me and her heel would break. She would fall. And somehow everyone would believe I had tripped her. It had worked perfectly in my first life. I changed one word in the event description. The panel showed me the original text. Valentina's heel snapped, and she tumbled to the ground. I changed tumbled to launched. Valentina's heel snapped, and she launched herself to the ground. The reception was held in the Institute's main hall. Crystal chandeliers, polished floors, professors in formal wear, sponsors holding wine glasses. Valentina walked in wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. She smiled at everyone. She touched Elias's arm. She laughed at something Marcus said. Then she walked toward the refreshment table. She passed me. Her heel hit a small bump in the floor. And then she didn't just trip. She threw herself forward like she was diving into a pool. Her body became horizontal in the air. Her arms spread wide. Her face shifted from graceful to terrified in a fraction of a second. She landed on her stomach and slid across the polished floor for a good 8 feet. Her dress rode up. Her shoes flew off. She came to a stop right at the feet of the Institute director, who had been in the middle of a speech. The room went quiet. Then someone coughed. Then someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Valentina pushed herself up. Her nose was bleeding. Her perfect hair was a disaster. She pointed at me. She did it. She pushed me. But I was standing 15 feet away. My hands were in my pockets. There was no physical way. The Institute director looked at Valentina, then at me, then back at Valentina. "Miss Valentina, perhaps you should see the nurse." "No," she cried. I know she did something. She's always been jealous of me. Elias stepped forward. His face was confused. "Valentina, I saw it. Your heel just gave out. No one touched you." Marcus nodded slowly. "Yeah, I was looking right at you. You just launched yourself." Valentina stared at them. Her tears started falling. But this time, they didn't have the usual effect. Elias didn't rush to comfort her. Marcus didn't glare at me. They just stood there looking uncomfortable. I walked over to Valentina and offered my hand. "Here, let me help you up." She slapped my hand away. "Don't touch me." I pulled back calmly. "Okay. I hope you feel better." Then I walked to the other side of the room. The panel chimed. First plot deviation successful. 15 witnesses. Reader's favor has been slightly reduced. Over the next few weeks, I continued accumulating points. I volunteered to mentor first-year students who were struggling with their lab techniques. I helped organize a donation drive for a community science program. I even spent a Saturday repairing broken equipment in the teaching lab. Each act added to my balance. Meanwhile, Valentina's behavior grew stranger. The reader's favor was weakening, but it wasn't gone. She could still influence people. But the effects were becoming less reliable. She came to my lab station one afternoon. She was holding a small gift box wrapped in gold paper. In my first life, she had brought me a beautiful leather journal. When I refused to accept it because I was still hurt from the reception incident, she cried to everyone about how cruel I was. That was when my classmates started giving me cold shoulders. The original text read, Valentina handed Clara a beautifully wrapped journal with an apologetic smile. I changed the entire sentence. Valentina handed Clara a small container of live beetles with a forced smile. I made the edit that morning. Then I waited. Valentina arrived right on schedule. Her eyes were already glistening. "Clara," she said softly, "I feel terrible about what happened at the reception. I wanted to give you something to show. There are no hard feelings. She reached into her bag. Her hand came out holding a clear plastic container. Inside were at least a dozen dark brown beetles crawling over each other. She held it out to me. Her smile didn't waver. The narrative forced her to commit. I looked at the beetles. Then I looked at Valentina with what I hoped looked like genuine appreciation. Oh, wow. You remembered I'm studying Coleoptera for my entomology elective. That's so thoughtful. I took the container from her hands. She blinked. Her brain clearly hadn't expected this reaction. I actually need some live specimens for my population dynamics project. These are perfect. Thank you, Valentina. Several students from neighboring labs had heard her soft voice and come to see what was happening. They watched as I happily accepted a box of bugs and thanked Valentina like she had given me a rare gift. That's so weird, a guy named Owen whispered. Who gives someone beetles as an apology? Valentina's face went pale. I thought you would like them. She stammered. I love them, I said. Really? You have no idea how hard it is to find live specimens this time of year? Did you collect these yourself? Valentina opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. She turned and walked away quickly. Her heels clicked on the floor. She didn't run, but it was close. The panel chimed. Positive interaction witnessed by 9 people. Valentina's intended manipulation failed. Points awarded. I took the beetles to the entomology lab and released them into a proper habitat. They became part of a legitimate research project. A week later, the professor running that project asked if I wanted to be listed as a co-author on his paper. I said yes. That was the thing about doing real good. It had real consequences. Not just for the plot, but for my actual life. The Midwinter Symposium was the next major event. This was where Valentina had publicly humiliated me in my first life. She had worn a stunning dress that my foster mother had originally promised to buy for me. She had walked past me with a glass of champagne. She had tripped. She had blamed me. The original text was burned into my memory. The new text I had prepared was something else entirely. I had saved up 2 full-sentence edits for this moment. The original read: Valentina accepted a glass of champagne from a server. She stumbled over Clara's outstretched foot, and the champagne spilled across her gown. She cried out in shock, and the entire room turned to look at Clara with disgust. I changed it too. Valentina accepted a glass of champagne from a server. She then lifted the glass above her head, poured the entire contents over her own hair, and began reciting the lyrics to a popular children's song about farm animals while hopping on one foot. The symposium was held in the Institute's largest lecture hall. There were over 200 people in attendance. Faculty, students, industry partners, local news cameras. Valentina looked beautiful in a deep burgundy gown. Her hair was styled in soft waves. She mingled near the refreshment table, laughing, touching arms, being perfect. Then a server offered her a flute of champagne. She took it. Her fingers closed around the stem, and her face went blank. I watched from across the room as her arm rose. The champagne tilted. The golden liquid cascaded down her perfectly styled waves, dripping onto her burgundy gown, soaking the expensive fabric. She opened her mouth, and out came. Old MacDonald had a farm. Ei, io. Her voice was high and clear. Tears streamed down her face. but she kept singing. And on that farm, he had a cow. A-A-oh. She started hopping on her left foot. Her wet hair slapped against her cheeks. The room went completely silent. Then someone laughed. Then another person. Then the laughter spread like fire. With a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there. Here a moo, there a moo, everywhere. A moo, moo. Valentina hopped in a circle. Champagne dripped from her chin. The institute director covered his mouth with both hands. A journalist from the local news station lowered his camera, then raised it again. This was too good to miss. Elias stood frozen near the back wall. His face was a mask of horror and confusion. Marcus was recording on his phone. I don't know if he meant to or if his hand just moved on its own. Valentina finished the first verse. Then she started the second verse. Old MacDonald had a farm. Ayo. And on that farm, he had a pig. Ayo. Her hopping became more aggressive. Her wet dress clung to her legs. A pig walked past a professor, whispered to the person next to him. Is this some kind of performance art? I think she's having a mental break. Someone should call medical. But no one moved. They were all too transfixed. Valentina finished the pig verse. Then she started on the duck. Then the horse. Then the sheep. By the time she got to the chicken, she was sobbing openly. Her voice cracked. Her hopping slowed. She ran out of farm animals. She collapsed onto the floor. The champagne glass had long since shattered. She sat in a puddle of golden liquid and her own tears. The room stayed quiet for 3 full seconds. Then the institute director stood up. He cleared his throat. Well, that was certainly a unique interlude. Let's all take a 5-minute break. The panel chimed so loudly I felt it in my teeth. High-impact event witnessed by 231 people. Media presence detected. Local news recording confirmed. Reader's favor reduced by 40%. 3 sentence edits awarded. I slipped out of the lecture hall and went to prepare my own presentation. My project was on biodegradable alternatives to single-use plastics derived from agricultural waste. It wasn't flashy. It didn't involve farm animal songs or champagne showers. It was just solid science. When my turn came, I walked to the podium. I presented my data. I answered questions. I demonstrated my material, which broke down completely in soil within 60 days. A representative from a major packaging company asked for my contact information. A professor from another university invited me to apply for their graduate program. No one threw champagne. No one sang about farm animals. It was perfect. After the symposium, everything shifted. Valentina took a medical leave of absence. The official story was stress-related exhaustion. But everyone knew the truth. They had seen her. They had recorded her. They had shared the videos. Elias called me 3 days later. His voice was strange. Quiet. Like he was hearing his own words for the first time. Clara, I've been thinking about the past few months, about how I treated you. I don't know why I believed everything Valentina said. It felt like I was asleep. He paused. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I said, okay. That's all. Okay. He sounded lost. What do you mean, okay? I mean, I heard you. I'm not angry anymore. but I'm not going to pretend everything is fine. I have work to do. I hung up. Marcus showed up at my lab the next day. He looked terrible. Dark circles. Messy hair. Hands shaking. Clara. He said my name like it hurt. I turned off my microscope. Marcus. I need you to know something. He stepped closer. When I was with Valentina, when I was defending her, it felt like someone else was piloting my body. Like I was watching myself be a terrible person, and I couldn't stop. His voice cracked. I remember everything. Every cruel thing I said to you. Every time I chose her. I remember it all. I looked at him. Really looked. The panel showed me that Marcus's narrative conditioning had completely dissolved. He was seeing the truth. And it was destroying him. That sounds very hard, I said. It is. He whispered. Then you understand why I can't be your friend anymore. Marcus flinched like I had hit him. Clara, please. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. You hurt me in ways I can't undo. I can forgive you. But I can't forget. And I can't go back to the way things were. He stood there for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I understand. He left. I watched him go. Then I turned back to my microscope. The panel was quiet. It didn't chime. It didn't award points. It just waited. The final confrontation came at the National Innovation Summit. This was the event that had destroyed me in my first life. Valentina had presented my research on biodegradable plastics as her own. She had won the grand prize. She had been celebrated in national news. When I tried to speak up, I was removed from the venue. Elias and Marcus had stood between me and the stage. My foster mother had issued a public statement distancing our family from my accusations. That night, I packed my bags. I took the train. And I didn't make it to my destination. This time, I was ready. I had filed a full patent for my plastic alternative 3 months earlier. I had documented every step of my research. I had video logs, signed witness statements, timestamps on every file, and I had saved every point the panel had given me. The original text for the summit was brutal. Valentina presented her groundbreaking research to a captivated audience. The judges were deeply impressed by her innovation and awarded her the grand prize without hesitation. Clara could only watch from the audience as her stolen work received the recognition it deserved. I had 5 sentence edits saved. I used 4 of them. The new text read, Valentina presented her research to the judges. But when asked to demonstrate her material's biodegradability, she instead inserted the prototype into her mouth and declared that human digestion was the most advanced composting system on Earth. She then attempted to swallow the entire device, began hiccuping uncontrollably, and announced that her hiccups were Morse code for "I am a fraud." The summit was held at a massive convention center downtown. Thousands of attendees filled the main hall. Live streams reached millions online. Valentina arrived looking pale but determined. Her readers' favor was barely holding. I could see the cracks in her composure. Her hands shook when she approached the stage. But she still believed she could win. She stood behind the podium. Her slides were beautiful. Her voice was steady. She explained the science of biodegradable plastics with clarity and confidence. She showed graphs. She cited sources. She spoke for 15 minutes without stumbling. Then the head judge asked a simple question. Miss Valentina, could you please demonstrate your material's degradation properties using your prototype? Valentina smiled. Of course. She reached for the small disc on the table beside her. It looked like my material. It was my material. She had stolen a sample from my lab during a tour I had given months ago. Her fingers touched the disc, and then her face went blank. The panel had locked in the edit. Valentina picked up the prototype. She turned it over in her hands. Then she opened her mouth and put it inside. The audience gasped. A judge stood up. Miss Valentina, what are you doing? Valentina couldn't answer. Her mouth was full of biodegradable polymer. Tears streamed down her face. But she kept chewing. The material was designed to break down in soil, not in human mouths. It was tough, rubbery. She struggled to swallow. Then she did. She swallowed. Then she reached for another piece. The live chat exploded. Is she eating her project? What is wrong with this woman? Someone call security. Valentina ate the entire prototype, piece by piece. Then she started hiccuping. Each hiccup was loud and violent. Her body jerked with each one. And between hiccups, she started making sounds. Hic, ... Hic. ... Hic. ... A woman in the front row whispered. That's Morse code for SOS. Wait. She said I am a fraud. Another person shouted. She's saying I am a fraud. Valentina's face contorted. She tried to stop hiccuping. She couldn't. She tried to stop talking. She couldn't. Hic. I... Hic. Am. Hic. A. Hic. Fraud. The word fraud echoed through the microphone. The head judge covered her mouth. The other judges stared in open-mouthed horror. Security guards rushed the stage. Valentina fought them off. She was still hiccuping, still translating to Morse code, still crying. They finally pulled her off the stage. She was screaming now. Not words, just sounds. The convention center was chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Attendees pulled out their phones. The live stream had over 2 million viewers. And I walked up to the empty stage. I set up my own prototype. A fresh one. A working one. I placed it in a container of soil. I started a timer. And I explained to the judges what real science looked like. This material breaks down in 60 days. I said, not in human stomachs. I don't recommend eating it. That got a weak laugh from the audience. I presented my patent documentation. I showed my video logs. I played a recording of Valentina touring my lab 3 months ago. The timestamp was clear. The head judge looked at me. Then at the chaos still unfolding off stage. Then back at me. Young lady, she said. Please continue. I did. I spoke for 20 minutes. I answered every question. I demonstrated my material 3 more times. When I finished, the entire hall applauded. Not polite applause. Real applause. Standing. Whistling. The kind of applause that makes your chest hurt. I won the grand prize, the $500,000 grant, the feature article in a national science magazine, the interview requests from 3 different news networks, and something else. Global recognition. The panel flashed bright gold. Massive positive impact detected. Readers' favor completely dissolved. Narrative reset complete. You are no longer a supporting character. You are the author. The aftermath was swift. Valentina was expelled from the Whitaker Institute. Her research records were audited. Multiple cases of plagiarism were discovered. She was asked to leave the country. I heard she went to live with relatives in a small town somewhere. I didn't ask for details. Elias called me one more time. His voice was hollow. Clara, our mother wants to know if you'll come home for the holidays. I laughed. Not a mean laugh. Just a surprised one. Home. He was quiet. The Institute is my home now. I said, the lab. The work. That's where I belong. But we're family. You were family. You stopped being family the night you stood in a room full of people and called me a pity case. I can still hear your voice, Elias. I can still see your face. He started crying. I hung up. Marcus sent me a letter. A real letter. On paper. It said he had started therapy. It said he was trying to become someone who deserved forgiveness. It said he didn't expect me to give it. I kept the letter. I didn't respond. My foster mother called the Institute's main line. The receptionist transferred her to my voicemail. She left a message saying she missed me, saying she had made mistakes, saying she hoped I would give her another chance. I saved the message. I listened to it once. Then I deleted it. On my last day at Whitaker before moving to my new fellowship, I walked through the halls one final time. I passed the lecture hall where Valentina had sung about farm animals. I passed the corridor where she had offered me beetles. I passed the reception hall where she had launched herself across the floor. Everywhere I looked, I saw the ruins of my old humiliation. But they didn't feel like ruins anymore. They felt like proof. Proof that I had survived. Proof that I had fought back. Proof that I had won. The panel was still there. Faint now. Almost transparent. It displayed a simple message. Your narrative control is complete. Would you like to continue using the system? I thought about it. The system had given me a second chance. It had given me the tools to break free. But I didn't need it anymore. No, thank you. I said, I'm done rewriting other people's stories. The panel flickered. Then it displayed one last line. You were never a side character, Clara. You were always the hero. You just needed someone to remind you. Then it disappeared. I walked out of the Institute into the evening light. There was no train station waiting to become my grave. There was only a taxi and an airport and a new life waiting on the other side of the country. I got into the taxi. I gave the driver the address. And I watched my old world shrink in the rearview mirror. In my first life, I died thinking I was nothing. A plot device. A sacrifice. A footnote in someone else's love story. But here's the thing about being a side character. You can always rewrite your own ending. You just have to be brave enough to turn the page. And this time, I wrote something beautiful.